every game. We're taking almost double as penalties as we have power play. So it's tough. It's too much relying on the penalty kill, and also there's the tempo is not there. We're just gonna stay out the box and be better. Sway deserves way better from us. He's been standing on his head, so it's tough loss.
Welcome to another episode of the Hockey Hub. Razor in the hot seat today. Razor, thanks for doing this with us.
You got it. Morning, afternoon.
Morning, yeah. We have lots to go over. Just to, obviously, we just heard from David Pastrnak. I definitely want to deep dive into the penalties. That's what Barry and Billy and I definitely talked about a lot on our post-game show. But just to set this up for everyone watching at home, we have Evan Marinofsky joining us a little later. He is an editor of the New England Hockey Journal. He's got his own podcast with Connor Ryan as well called Bruins Beat. So we're going to get his take on the recent state of the Boston Bruins and stuff around New England revolving hockey, because of course he writes for the Journal. And then Razor and I are going to go over this road trip, 3 games into 4 games. This Bruins season so far, it's Thanksgiving. So it's about that time that we're looking at standings a little bit closer. So that's what we'll be doing. And we'll finish with cheat meals. But Razor, where do you want to start? I want to do some penalty talk, but maybe your overall thoughts on the game last night and the 3 games so far on the West, only walking away with 2 points out of a possible 6. It would have been nice if they had 3, even if, you'd want the wins, but even if one of those games, they got to push it to overtime or the shootout would have been great. But unfortunately, just 2 for the Bruins. So your thoughts so far through these 3 games?
Well, they played a great game in LA. We'll start with the good, and they had structure. And after the loss in Anaheim, where Marco Sturm talked about their defense and committing to defense, they did that on Friday night against LA. So that was a positive evening. Anaheim, they blew it at the end. They had such resiliency. They fought back, a bad start, but really pushed all the way through and deserved much better. To your point of getting at least a point there, that would have set the trip up. And why those points are important is because they played pretty good last night against San Jose, but Askarov was fantastic. He made some huge saves. And we just heard from David Pastrnak. They took too many penalties. They stayed out of the box against LA. They had a huge issue against San Jose. And although the penalty kill was fantastic, when you're killing 6 times, you just can't generate the way you want to offensively. So all in all, it's been a hard-fought trip. The last time they went out west, they got smoked by Vegas and Colorado and Utah. So it's been much more competitive. It's felt better. Their structure now, it's some of the other details outside of the structure, and the goal scoring, I guess, went a little cold when it's not just Morgan Geekie.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's also something we have to address. Geekie's been on a heater, which we love to see, but we also want to make sure that secondary scoring, which was so present and alive and was like a question mark for the Bruins this season, was doing really well. So we'll talk about that, but let's zero in on the penalties. The Bruins lead the NHL with 110 minor penalties taken. Montreal and Florida, they're tied for second with 88. So that's a significant amount less. When we were chatting in our kind of pregame meeting, I wanted to set this up in this way. You're a former hockey player. Hockey players know what it means to take less penalties. But someone like myself, before I started covering the games this intensely, I was like, well, what does that mean? How do you take less penalties other than the obvious ones, like a cross-checking penalty? Hampus Lindholm didn't need to do that. But like a tripping, a stick infraction, what does that mean for the Bruins? That they're just behind the play a little bit? How can they take less penalties? Explain that to the viewers who maybe, are wondering about that.
Yeah, well, it would certainly deserve more of a deep dive for me to know exactly. But from 30,000 feet and watching on a nightly basis, it's a couple of things. One, some nights they don't have the puck enough. So when you don't have the puck, you're going to take a penalty. If the other team has the puck the entire night, then you're likely to get more penalties called against you. I think at different times within the season, they haven't found their structure defensively. So that means they're running around a little bit. That means they're chasing the play. And that means they get sticks in places where you end up getting trips. I would say in their defense, a lot of those minors, again, I haven't done a deep dive. A lot of those minors are roughing calls. They're a tough team. They're a team that wants to play in your face. So there's a lot more scrums. There's a lot more 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 type minor penalties that get called. And over time, if you take 1 or 2 of those a game after 23 games, that's 46. That adds up into that number where you're the most penalized team in the National League. So at the end of the day, it really becomes a mentality. I think you can take your eye off the ball and you can take a couple penalties and it kind of gets away from you. We've seen it a lot with the 5-on-3s. You take one penalty and then you end up trying to be aggressive on your penalty kill and you take a slashing call or you take a hooking call or you take a tripping call to put yourself on 5-on-3. It's incredible that they've gone through 4 5-on-3s of over a minute in the last 9 days and haven't given up a goal on any of those. The kill has been incredible, but like David talked about in the open, it just throws so much of your game off. The rhythm of the game, the guys who don't kill get tossed out. The guys who do kill have to recover for 2 or 3 shifts to get back into it. It not only puts you at such a disadvantage for 12 minutes of the game, but also just throws the rhythm of everyone else's and your entire lineup off.
Yeah, 100%. That's what the guys on the desk were talking about when you're on the PK, like you said, even though it's great. And when they had Brad Marchand, he was good at getting shorthanded opportunities. But if you're not having David Pastrnak on the ice and some of your goal scorers, then you're losing momentum. And we saw a couple of shifts yesterday where the third and fourth line, the bottom 6, they were energizing and great chances, a lot of ozone time. And then all of a sudden there's a penalty, boom, and that momentum is killed. So good point there. The 5-on-3 is also a league leading 7, which is crazy. But as you mentioned, it's doing great. So do we want to, we don't have a breakdown opportunity to do that on the podcast, but I guess just to end it on a positive spin, at least there's that. At least the kill is great, even though you don't want it to be working so hard.
No, it's had to be. It really has had to be. They wouldn't be where they were without that kill. And the reason why the kill isn't statistically better is because of how many penalties they've taken. I don't think it's indicative of how good their PK has actually been, because it's been, on a nightly basis, it's been very positive. So again, it's just it's a little bit of a mindset to stay out of the box and if you're killing 2 or 3 times, this kill's proven that they're going to be the difference makers for them.
Let's move on to Morgan Geekie, but before we do, let's hear from Marco Sturm, 101 with Brick after last night's game.
Marco, the empty net goal aside, was the difference tonight the fact that the Sharks finished one more opportunity than the Bruins did, or is it deeper than that?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. We just didn't find our game, I would say, the first half of the game. Found ourselves again too many times in the penalty box, and then all of a sudden you're down 2 goals. I was confident enough we can come back, and we tried everything in the third. So yeah, it's just another frustrating night. Just we played good, but just left points here in the building.
Yeah, how much of a factor is the amount of penalties in terms of getting the rhythm and finding your game and getting your game? And is it a concern moving forward?
Absolutely. No, it is a concern because that means you're going to leave your best players on the bench. As a player, if you ever play the game, you want to be in a rhythm. And if you're not in a rhythm, it's tough to get going again. And if your best players sit on the bench too many times, then we have a problem. And it's been it's been an issue all year long.
All right. So Marco, kind of echoing what we were just talking about, obviously frustrating, but someone who has been finding the back of the net, 5 goals in his last 3 games, Morgan Geekie. Razor, you were around all of last year. You saw Morgan Geekie started the season. He really didn't start lighting it up until after January. He's actually got the most goals in the NHL since January 1st. First of all, your thoughts on his development, the fact that he signed a new contract already, not like he's in the contract year like he was last year and earning it, being able to keep up the pace he had last year and increasing it actually. Like, we love this from Geekie.
No question. He's a world-class player, and what a great job the Boston Bruins organization did finding him in Seattle, signing to his 2-year contract and putting him in an opportunity to score the way he is. And then for Morgan to go through last November where he was healthy scratch 3 games in a row, he was on the road, it was miserable, he was practicing, he was working, to take advantage of his opportunity when he did get back in the lineup and then got put onto a line with David Pastrnak and find chemistry right away. And since then, it's been to the moon for these guys. And it's been the chemistry, the passing, the play, the belief that David has in Morgan to become a playmaker on a lot of shifts where he's looking for Geekie rather than looking for him to take his shot. It's been very impressive. It's been a meteoric ride. Really impressive stuff. Everyone's calling, everyone's texting. What's the deal with this? Is this for real? And it is for real because he's got one of the hardest shots in the league, and it was kind of sneaky, but he beats goalies with pace and he beats goalies with shots from distance. And if you can do that, then it's repeatable and it can stay consistent because you're not counting on pucks hitting you in the back of the head. You're not counting on pucks going off your back or having to rely on other people. It's coming down to him just being better. And that's the beauty of where his game's at right now.
Yeah, you saw some line changes in last night's game where Stern put Zacha, Geekie, and Pasta kind of together midway through the third period. Obviously, with Lindholm's first game back after missing 10, that maybe there's going to be some adjustment there for him. Obviously, we could talk about that. But what do you think about that trio with Geekie, Zacha, and Pasta?
Well, they started out with Lindholm, so I'm curious. While Lindholm gets back up to speed, do they move back? Because they had a lot of success before Lindholm got out of the lineup. So I'm more, Pavel can play with everybody, and Pavel makes everybody better, especially defensively. So I'm curious if and when Lindholm gets back up to speed in another 9-10 days, do they get back to Lindholm, Geekie, and Pasta? But in the meantime, Zacha, again, like I said, he could play with anybody in this lineup, anybody in the league. He makes everybody better because of his defensive responsibility. His toolbox is full of talent, and the way he sees the game is so complementary to everybody out in the ice.
Listen, Razor, we're going to send it to break because we have Evan Marinofsky waiting in the weeds. He's going to join us after the break to continue this conversation about the Bruins, their road trip, and look ahead to some prospects that the Bruins have in their system. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Sophia and Razor here with you, but we have a special guest joining us for a couple segments to talk Bruins, to talk New England hockey, that being Evan Marinofsky of the New England Hockey Journal. He's got his own podcast as well. First of all, editor of the New England Hockey Journal, so congratulations on that and your pod with Connor Ryan, who we've had on the show. Why don't you give us a little plug to start instead of to end about where we can get your work and kind of what your pod with Connor's about, the Bruins beat. Obviously, the name probably says it all, right? But tell us a little bit.
Yeah, it does. No, it's funny. I actually just got done recording with him. Yeah, Bruins Beat twice a week. You can find that on Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. That's out all the time. Razor comes on, which is great. Sophia will have to get you on as well. And then New England Hockey Journal. Yeah, college recruiting, prep, any top prospects, U14 to U18, specifically Mason Raycroft, goalie at Cushing. I don't know who his dad is, but he seems to be pretty good. But New England Hockey Journal, we're kicking into gear now. Yeah, bad genetics. But no, it's a big time right now for that. So that's been the majority of the focus.
Okay, that's awesome. Congrats on the pod. And then, of course, the editorial position. We're going to get your thoughts. I was watching your Twitter a little bit last night during this Bruins game. So Razor and I just kind of had a rant about the penalties and how many the Bruins are taking, and they lead the league and being more disciplined. You had a tweet, though, about 2 minutes for, I think it was battling too hard. I know we're not supposed to criticize the refs too much, but how many of these penalties do you think are eye rolls compared to the Bruins can use some discipline?
Well, that one on Zadorov I thought was an eye roll. I think they got him for tripping, and that to me was battling too hard. But a lot of these aren't. A lot of these are them being a little bit slower than opponents. A lot of them, they're a physical team, and this is what happens when you're a physical team. If you're going to play with the trademark P and V, as Cam Neely says, like, you're going to take more penalties. 114-93 though in terms of minor penalties against Calgary, leading the league. That's not great. I think that's the one thing that they have to clean up, and that's tripping guys on the way by. You saw that on Sunday night. But at the same time, like Sophia, you alluded to it, like guys like Nikita Zadorov are going to take those kinds of penalties because they're big and tough, and they're 6'7", and that happens. Like referees sometimes like to make up for it, or it looks worse than it is. But they have to clean it up. They absolutely have to clean it up. You can't take 6 minor penalties in a game and expect to win. Anytime you're taking penalties, guys like Geekie and Pastrnak aren't on the ice. McAvoy's out, so you're losing time with Pastrnak and Geekie, and I think that's why. I know you guys saw it. Like in the third, it felt like Pastrnak and Geekie and then Zacha too were always on the ice. They never left because they had all that time that they were on the bench during PKs. So yeah, absolutely have to clean it up if they're going to want to win more games.
Yeah,
no question. They're built for 4 penalties a game. 4 is fine, and some nights 5, especially if one of them's kind of a 4-on-4 turns into a 4-on-4 at some point. But it's the extra 4 minutes within the game that messes everything up. They're 13-11. Is that much better, the same, or not as good as what you thought they would be through 24 games this season? And give us a little breakdown of those 24 games and where they're at.
To me, it's kind of where I thought they'd be. I had them right around 500 around Thanksgiving, and that's what they are. I think there've been some bad streaks. Razor, we did a podcast after the huge losing streak where it was like the sky is falling, and then the minute we got off that, they went on a crazy win streak. And then the last week or so, they've been up and down, back and forth. I think this is what they are. I think they are a competitive team that is around 500. They're, I think one thing that's really hurt them is they're not getting those loser points. That game against the Ducks sticks out. They've had a couple of others this year. I mean, how much better would you feel about them if they were 13-8-3? I don't think 13-11 is bad. It's just more so like a point or two here or there would help. And I also just think the East, outside of Carolina, everybody's kind of in this same spot. Everybody's sort of in and around it. And, one day you're first place in the Atlantic, the next day you're first in the wild card, the next day you're out of it, then you're back in. So to me, they're where I thought they'd be. They're a good competitive team that's right around 500. Again, it would look better if it was 13-8-3. It's not. They're going to have to be better at picking up, just getting games to overtime coming up, because they're actually really good in OT. But yeah, I'm not stunned by this. And I think, we always say Thanksgiving's sort of the barometer. This is what they are. They're a competitive, right around 500 team. And I think, Razor, you and I last time we spoke, it was not so hot. And there was that feeling of like, oh my God, are they going to be, are they going to be looking for Gavin McKenna? That's not going to be the case. So that's better than that.
I was with you with, in the summers, we had this podcast, and obviously once in a while I'll stop and chat with Bruins fans who are like, oh, what do we got this year? And I was like, dude, they're going to be way better than people think. Because I think people were saying, oh, they're going to be bottom of the league. This is going to be the year that they're just going to miss everything. And I definitely thought a team right around 500. We'll see what happens as we get closer to the Olympics. After the Olympics, hopefully, fingers crossed, no injuries. But there's so much that can happen in that case. But that being said, you said you expect them to be right around 500. Did you expect them to, or how did you expect them to get there? Did you think Pasta and maybe Geekie were going to carry the weight? We have seen more secondary scoring than expected, except as of late. Obviously, Geekie's on a tear. Did you expect the goaltending to, bail them out when actually they've definitely been excellent, but it's not like they're completely bailing them out of games? Is this kind of how you thought it would play out, or what has surprised you, if anything?
What surprised me most was during that losing streak when the offense was incredible, and it was defensively that they were bad. I thought defensively, at the very least, they were going to be really stout, and offensively, they were going to struggle. There have been a lot of surprises, Sophia. I think that's been one of the big things. Goaltending isn't. I expected Swayman to bounce back. Korpisalo's been pretty solid behind him, too. You'll take that. Morgan Geekie turning into a 57 goal pace. I didn't see that. I think, going into the, Sophia, you mentioned the summer. During the summer, it was like, all right, well, if Morgan Geekie can be a 25 goal scorer, you'll take that. You're happy with that. 33 is asking a lot for a guy that never did that before. And now he's on a 57 goal pace. And Razor, you were talking before I came on about how good he is and why he scores so many goals. And you do see it, the way that he's able to get to high danger chances, the soft spots he's able to find. His shot is so underrated from out high. Pastrnak clearly loves it. So I think that part of it surprised me. Pastrnak being as good as he has been, that definitely didn't surprise me. And then, they've cleaned things up defensively the last month. Nikita Zadorov has turned into a legitimate core piece. He was someone I was really worried about last year, someone that you looked at that signing and you were like, did they just sign him because he was big? And you saw the struggles last year, especially with the puck. He's kept it more simple. And that's what you want. You want a guy who's just going to make the simple pass coming out of his own zone. The last play Sunday night, that was a tough one from behind the net. Geekie did kind of fumble it, but you probably had Zacha there on the outlet on the left flank. But yeah, I mean, I think they've surprised in certain areas, and they've been, especially with goaltending, I think that's kind of what I expected. That's what you want out of a guy like Jeremy Swayman too.
What's your take on Marco Sturm's job and the rest of the coaching staff of how they've pieced together and organized the first 7 weeks of the season?
I've liked it. I've liked it so far. Sturm says the right things. I think he's pressed the right buttons. You even look at that the first West Coast trip, healthy scratching Middlestat. He comes back and he was way better after that. He's done the right things, mostly with lines. And I think he has a play style that fits this roster perfectly. This is not a high skill roster. Sturm is the first one to admit that. This is a roster that has to kind of grind out wins, that has to play physical, play tough. And they've done that. And I think defensively, you're starting to see them become more comfortable in that man hybrid system in their own zone, which is huge. And then you look at the power play. It's been much better. Steve Spott, credit to him. He's been, a revelation with that. And that power play, in the past, I know I've criticized McAvoy being at the top and pre-injury. He was great up at the top of the key running the power plays. So that's been good. And even on defense, they've shored things up. So I give a lot of credit to Jay Leach. He was someone that during that losing streak, it was like, okay, you were bad defensively last year. You were bad to start the year defensively. Do you look to Jay Leach? He's been, at least the defense has been much better. And so Jay is in charge of the D. That's a good thing for him. So I think the coaching staff's been good. I think Sturm fits what this roster is. And he, you have guys like Zadorov breaking out under him. You have Murat Hustendinov has broken out. Fraser Minten. We talk all the time about, the Bruins with younger players, blah, blah, blah. Minten's been really good. They've done the right things with Minten. So, I think from that sense, the coaching staff so far has been good. They're not going to be drawing many complaints from me right now for sure.
This was such a hot storyline preseason and in the summer and maybe even a couple weeks into the season, but it's cooled off. And I think for good reason, because I don't think it's a necessity. And I think the team's been doing fine. And what I'm talking about is the team without a captain, without a C. But I only bring it up because you just talked about how Marco Sturm, how you like how things have been going. I feel like he has the ear of the room. I know it's leadership by committee. I know Pasta's taking a step up. I don't want to kind of beat a dead horse with what we've kind of been talking about all summer, but just, a quarter of a way into the season, wondering what your thoughts are about how this has gone without a captain. Were you ever worried? And in my mind, no urgency to name one.
I was never worried. There was a lot made of this during the offseason. I was never one that was like, you've got to name a captain right now.
Yeah,
what?
same.
I think anyone who takes over any organization, any company, anything, if you step in day one and start, and if you haven't been there and you're naming people to this and making decisions, you don't really know the inner workings. Marco Sturm was not here. I mean, everybody considers him this Bruins insider. He hasn't been here in years. So I think it made sense for him to come in and say, look, I haven't been here. I want to see how things work. I want to see how they develop. And I also think it's I want to have that be a motivating factor for guys like Pastrnak and McAvoy. And you've seen someone like Nikita Zadorov step in. I mean, he wouldn't be my pick right now, but there are a lot of people I see on Twitter, fans who think Nikita Zadorov deserves the C. And I think that's, it's a good apple to kind of hang in front of the older guys to grab for. But no, I was never worried about it. I think you're seeing guys step up. They're clearly doing fine without it. Like, my pick is still David Pastrnak. I think he's done all the right things. I think he makes a lot of sense for that position. And Sturm has talked a lot about his leadership qualities. So I think, I don't know if it happens during the season, but I think, Pastrnak is definitely laying the groundwork for it, in my opinion. But yeah, it's never been something that I've been super concerned about. I think you have strong leadership in there right now anyway. And you have a lot of veterans too. You see it on Behind the B, guys like Victor Arvidsson, Tanner Jeannot, part of why they were brought in. And so you have that extra veteran leadership that you didn't have last year. You have that this year. I think that's another thing. Hasn't really surprised me that they've been a little bit better with those voices in the room.
If Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, and Nikita Zadorov stay in the lineup for 25 games straight, can this team be in the playoffs?
Yes. And I'm surprised. I'm not surprised I'm saying that, but I didn't expect to say that this year. They've been good enough. Like, I think when they have a full roster, they've proven at least through 24 games or less, because they've had less that they're actually on the roster for or on the ice for. But like, they have it. And I think the East is not as good as it has been in years past. I also think the way they play, sound defense, sound goaltending, different guys stepping up secondary scoring wise, like, you should be able to get in the playoffs and you should be a tough out. Not saying they're not cup contenders, but like, I don't think it's much to ask to get into the playoffs this year. Like, and Razor, like you say it with those three, like, those are three anchors back there. When those guys were in the lineup, you are phenomenal defensively, at least the last month. So yeah, I think absolutely they can get in. If they just need all three in the lineup, that's the problem. But if they can get those three, then there you go.
Harder said than done.
I know. Yes. The injury bug, and like we talked about on our show pre and post, it's not just the Bruins, but it stinks. Like, it's just so frustrating if management goes out and gets all those pieces, you're excited, and then and frustrating for the players. Like, my heart goes out to Charlie McAvoy. Obviously, he's had a tough personal stretch. So obviously hoping for his own sake that he can get back in it and sooner than later. But you want to see what management has built, right? Because they've gotten the pieces, and then we'll talk after the break too about what's in the system, but they're not kind of playing at the same time. So, what do you really have? But that's true for most teams out there with this condensed schedule. Maybe just your thoughts before we send it to break on the condensed schedule and, what for you, like, what's your sleep like? You're covering all sorts of hockey, not just the Bruins, but it's a lot. And we're not out there getting hit every night, blocking shots, but it's a lot for these guys to be playing the condensed and the density that they are.
Yeah, I don't myself is fine. Like, Sophia and Razor and you guys who are on the TV side, I wonder about you guys. Like, you have all these games this week. Like, you have it on the thing, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and it just gets crazier and crazier. Like, I hope you guys are going on a nice vacation come the Olympic break because Lord knows you need it. Razor knows the grind I go through during the winter with going out to all the different rinks and around New England, and lots of coats in the back of my car, Sophia. That's for sure. Lots of coats.
The Bruins games are the easiest part of this guy's schedule. It's
yes.
Everything else is hard. So you can't wait to get home and watch the Bruins.
All right.
When you're at Lawrence Academy and like what feels like a meat locker, it's freezing. Like, that's when it's like, you know what? TD
3 weeks away, buddy.
So bad.
2.5 weeks away.
Wait, did you just say I'm so cold on the 5th floor every game? There's like, they got a tea kettle for me just so I can drink hot water. Dude, like that's where I'm at.
It in the prep school loop.
So you're saying it's colder over there?
Evan.
Waking up the next morning after like being in a rink for 10 hours and just being like fully congested, and it's not sickness. It's just like, it's just from being freezing cold. That I could use some of that tea, Sophia. I could definitely use some of that hot water.
Okay. I'm holding like a thermos of hot water, but again, I'm in like TV clothing. So if I could wear my parka, I would, but I always have to have like a nice dress shirt on, and then I'm freezing underneath. Anyway, I digress. Let's go to break. We'll be back to talk Bruins prospects, more hockey with Evan Marinofsky on the other side of the Hockey Hub. We'll be right back.
It's good to be back. It was one of those games you just try to get the rhythm going and do the best you can. But happy to get one out of the way for sure.
we haven't had a chance to talk to you since you got hurt. Did it take longer to come back than you thought in terms of where you were and how it felt?
Yeah, when an injury like that happens, obviously you want to come back right away. But I think I'm still ahead of the timeline a little bit. So it's good to be back for sure.
Ahead of the timeline, but feeling 100%?
Yeah. Now the rehab and everything went well, so I felt ready to go.
All right, Elias Lindholm talking yesterday after the game. First game back since leaving with a lower body injury October 30th. That was against Buffalo. Good to see him back this soon. I mean, obviously, you probably wouldn't have wanted to miss any of that time. But listen, for me, if I'm missing a couple of games on air, as we talked about before, like I'm rusty AF when I come back. I don't know what it is. I think it's just getting one under the belt. That's not true for every player. But for Elias, what did you think of his game yesterday, Evan, and maybe how long it'll take him just to get back to the pre-injury form?
Yeah, I thought he was fine. Sophia, you hit it. Like, there's always that rust that you're trying to shake off when you come back off a pretty long stint injured. I think he provides stability down the middle, which is huge for them. He plays in all situations. I do wonder how Sturm manages it. It seems like, again, Geekie, Zacha, and Pastrnak looked really good on Sunday night. Lindholm and Pastrnak did have a good thing going at the end of last year and a little bit to begin this year. Do you put Lindholm back with Pastrnak? The other thing is 5-on-5 points. Like, Lindholm was lacking in that category when he went down. A lot of his points came from the power play, and that was great. But I do want to see him contribute more at 5-on-5. And in terms of how long it's going to take, I mean, you have 3 games this week. Like, that's a good amount of time to kind of get you back into swing. So for me, I think it's just the stability he provides, the all situations, and then how much can he help your 5-on-5 offense? Because he definitely has to up that in these next couple of weeks.
He certainly stabilized the center ice position. A big signing 18 months ago now for Don Sweeney, along with Nikita Zadorov. They both seem to be settling in. Bunch of injuries for Lindholm last season. So he's stabilized at the National League level, but that's not always necessary to win a cup. Sometimes you need to go above stabilizing, and let's talk about what the Bruins have in the pipeline, and if basically the Boston Bruins light down on Chestnut Hill. Let's go through those guys first, because those are the locals. Those are the ones you see the most, I know. Give us a rundown on the Hagens, Letourneaus of the world.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, over the offseason, I kept saying, Hagens he's got to be a world beater this year. He's got to be like, I was at UMass when Cale Makar was there. It's like that sophomore year that Cale Makar had that he won the Hobie. Like, that's got to be James Hagens this season. And it hasn't been so far, but I do think there are some caveats. He's not playing with Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault anymore. BC's struggled. They're not as talented as they have been in years past. And he still produced at the same rate he did last year. And I think there's value to that. You look at and they've moved him to the wing, which is a little concerning, but he has been better since being moved to the wing. I just want to see him as a center. I want him to develop as a center. And if he comes to the NHL and he's a wing, then fine. But I do want to see him take as many reps as possible at center. And I know obviously during the course of a shift, you can take over the center's responsibilities throughout. But his skill, his vision have been fantastic. And I do think he's been better at getting to high danger ice, which was kind of a knock on him throughout his draft year and even before then. The other thing I want to see is him elevating his line mates. That's a big one for me. He's had a revolving door on both sides when he was down the middle, and he's had different centers and wings that he's played with throughout the season. So I do think it's going to take time, but I think by the end of the year, if he continues his point space and guys playing with him produce as well, that's a good thing. Dean Letourneau is a great story. You think about last year, there were so many people who were ready to write him off, who were writing him off. And I kept saying, I was like, it's 1 year in, this guy's a project. He's 6'7". He's a center. He's coming out of St. Andrews, which is prep school hockey, to college. I mean, that is rarely done now. I don't expect him to do much of anything. And he didn't. I mean, he was clearly over his head and people are writing him off. And I'm like, give it a year, give it some time. And he's been fantastic this year. 11 points in 13 games. His shot's been great. He has 5 goals. He's been an impactful guy for them. And I think, I know there are fans who are probably like, get him up here next year. And it's like, no, Dean Letourneau should take as much time at BC as he needs. I think if he continues at this pace this year, you take that and you hope next year he's at the same pace or better, continues to improve his game, continues to round out his game. And then you hope this seems like a long time away, 27, 28, he's in Providence. And again, that's projecting far out, but to his credit, he's on that path. I think that's a really good thing for them, because what Letourneau could be, whether it's, I think he's, become physical enough where he could play in a bottom six role. He can play on the wing. Or there's that other end where if he continues to produce at this rate, he's a candidate for the top six somewhere. So it's been very encouraging for Letourneau. Hagens has been solid too. BC Light over on ComAb. They haven't been as dominant, I think, as we thought they would be, but it's still early and the results are still not too bad.
In the last segment, I was going to touch on Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith a little bit, just like watching these young guys play. Barry Peterson was on our desk yesterday, and he said, in terms of Celebrini, he's like, I thought it would take him, a couple of years longer to get kind of to the points production that he is now. And I know that he was highly touted for a really long time. Like everyone was talking Celebrini for a lot of years, but just in terms of age and making it to the NHL, when is it obvious, because a lot of the questions this development camp was, when will someone like James Hagen or Dean Letourneau be available to the big club? And some of the fear is like, you bring them up too early, then you send them down to Providence and then their confidence is shot, et cetera, et cetera. So is there an obvious answer with that, or does it really just depend on how they do in college, or is it an eye test? And I can ask Razor the same thing, but Evan, with you've covered, college hockey and you've seen the transition. Is there an obvious answer to when guys are ready?
No, there isn't an obvious answer, and that's what makes it hard. That's the real thing, where there isn't a tell. I think, Razor can attest to this with anybody, but especially goalies. It's impossible to know. I think it hits at different points for people. Some are late bloomers, some early. I know Celebrini, what's interesting is that 24 draft, because I remember Cole Iserman, being from Newburyport, and we covered him heavily. He was ranked over Celebrini on a lot of draft boards early in that 24 cycle. And you look back and you're like, oh my God, Celebrini's a potential generational player. He was coming out of the USHL where he had a really good year, but it still wasn't obvious. And I think that with him, he's been outstanding. The impact that he's made. He was so good his freshman year at BU. And then to have the success that he's had in San Jose early, where it's like, he's potentially like, he's definitely a top 10 player right now. And some are, throwing around the word generational. And I don't think that's insane. And then the other thing is, like, Will Smith has kind of been overshadowed by how good Macklin's been. And Will Smith's vision, his hockey IQ, he sees the game differently than most. Like, you see some of the passes that he makes on goals, and it's, they get overlooked sometimes, but it's like, how did you see that? And coming up, that was what he was. It's a different game for him. It's slower. He's smarter. It's really incredible. So those two have been incredible. And I think that the funny thing is, like, for a guy like James Hagens, he gets compared to those guys because they were so good in college, not that, a year or two ago, that, you're getting compared to Will Smith putting up over 80 points as a freshman, Macklin Celebrini winning the Hobie as a freshman. And I think the reality is those are guys on different levels. Those guys are on a different, somehow in a different stratosphere. And so I think that, the development they've had at the NHL level with Celebrini, how good he's been. And it really, like, San Jose is an exciting team to watch. You saw it on Sunday night. I always say they're one of my, and I'm biased because of New England ties, but like, they're one of my favorite teams. If it's 10 PM and, I'll throw their game on because it's just so fun to watch those two play together.
It's good to be young and stay up at 10:30 to watch hockey.
You've had to do it, Razor. You guys have been up for a while the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah,
these games.
It's you have to be. So that there's a carrot for me dangling at the end of that one. What's any other prospects, any other kids that have stood out this season for the Bruins that, the Zellers, the Pelosi's, those guys of the world that are a little bit further down the food chart? Talked about late bloomers, guys that have to aren't going to be rolled the red carpet to the National League, fight their way through. Any of those guys showed well here through November 24th of this season.
You hit the nail on the head with those two. I think Pelosi's been a huge surprise. This was someone who in his draft year was in the NAHL for half of the year. And I think a lot of people were like, 3rd round pick? Like, you even picked this kid? What are you talking about? And 9 goals, 15 points, 14 games. He plays like a Bruin. He's a two-way kind of guy, two-way center. And Quinnipiac's the perfect place you want to develop those guys. That's how the Bobcats play. That's a stingy defensive team. Every year they're somewhere in the bottom 5 of goals against. Rand Pecknold has them playing that kind of way. And Pelosi fits. So I think he's a guy that you can project when he gets to the pro level. He's going to make an impact as likely a bottom 6 center. But he's been producing. So it's like, there is that chance that he develops into potentially a middle 6 center. And then Will Zellers. I think Zellers, it was a huge deadline ad, immediately became one of your top prospects, 7 goals for North Dakota. And I just think his natural scoring ability, the fact that it's translating from the USHL, where he was awesome with Green Bay last year, to now North Dakota, where he's doing the same thing. Again, you look at someone like a Morgan Geekie, and he kind of just appeared out of thin air with all these goals. Zellers has that goal scoring ability. He has it. It's innate. And so he's someone that if he can, when he gets to the NHL level, be a middle 6 scoring winger that going far away, like gives you consistently 20 goals, like you'll take that. So I think the fact that those two have been have exceeded expectations at this point, especially with Zellers being a freshman, Pelosi being in his 2nd year at QU, like I think those are 2 really big bright spots for the Bruins. And the Bruins prospect pipeline's gotten a lot better in the last year. And I think you're seeing the fruit of it. You're seeing it now, which is good.
To wrap, maybe I really do trust, obviously, management in terms of who they're calling up, and when they decide so and so's ready. They wanted to see Tufte, Blumel, Alex Steeves, Jonathan Aspro, et cetera. But anyone currently in Providence that you haven't seen that you really want to get a look at on the NHL level. Again, because one of the guys has already had a couple of stints, that being Fabian Lysell, but someone like Patra, Merkulov, Lysell, anyone you want to see, or do you want to see more of maybe Blumel, who was a scratch the other night?
I definitely like that they're playing Blumel and Steeves. I know Blumel, as you said, didn't play on Sunday night, but I like that they're getting a little bit of an extended rope. You're seeing what they are, which I think is really important for those guys. But Matt Patra is the one I want to see. I know he's struggled so far in Providence this year. What is he? And he's still young. He's still a really young player. He's someone I do want to see get an extended look again at the NHL level. Because again, is he better on the wing? Is he better down the middle? He's good with high-end talent. So that's something where Hustendinov was really good up there and held his own the last couple of weeks. But when Lindholm first went down, I was like, I want to see Patra up there, and good on the Hustendinov for owning that and proving that he's can be a guy that can slot into the top 6 when you need him. But Matt Patra is someone I do want to see more from, both in Providence and in the NHL. And with regards to Blumel and Steeves, I think Steeves is showing that he's kind of an anywhere in the lineup kind of guy. There's a physical element to his game that I do like, and that I think you can play him in different situations that I don't think you can with Blumel. It's only been a couple of games for Blumel up at the NHL level with the Bruins, so I can't make any sweeping declaration, but I do think, rounding out his game is a big thing for him. Also removing the question of, are you just an AHL top 6 forward? Can you do what you do with the AHL at the NHL level is big for him. And you're only going to get the answer to that by more playing time. So yeah, I would say Patra, and then getting an extended look at Blumel, I think are my 2 things right now.
Evan, awesome stuff. Would love to be on your pod one day. You're lovely to listen to. You and Connor have been guests on our show. Before we let you go, no joke, I can maybe, send a text to prove this, but I texted Billy Jaffe a picture of all my jeans on the floor because I said, I'm trying on jeans which have the most give because I'm going to his house for Thanksgiving. So we're going to eat a bleep ton, and I need a lot of give in those jeans, okay? What are your plans for Thanksgiving?
It used to be like family, all the families and cousins, but the last couple of years, actually, it's just been my sister, my mom, my dad, and me. And because my sister just graduated college, shout out to Rachel. She works in New York City. So it's her first year out of college, and so it's just nice for everybody to be home. I'm in Boston, so it's nice for everybody to get together. It's quiet, you can just kind of lounge on the couch. You don't have to have any of those conversations with cousins, how are things going with you? And that's nice and all, but it's nice to just kind of relax and everything. By the way, speaking of food, I noticed tonight you guys got McDonald's on the broadcast, which was great. And props to you, Sophia, for having a couple of the bites. But Razor, you picked up the McChicken and didn't eat any of it, right? Like I
had a little bite, like the smallest of bites. But no, yeah. So McDonald's is just one of those. I never liked it as a kid either. I went to Harvey's. Harvey's is like the Canadian, I don't know. It's the best fast food ever on the planet, as Soph knows. Harvey's. So I always would only go to Harvey's, never McDonald's. So it's just a McDonald's thing for me.
Dude,
I'm really not a snob with it, just that.
I've been paying for it for 2 days. I mean, it's just a burger, fine, but I do get tired. I don't know what it is. It's obviously all the I don't know, the oil.
You know exactly what it is, Soph.
I know what it is. I'm still feeling that one little burger, or whatever it was, a McChicken. But it was nice to do that on air, and now I just got to save the rest for Thanksgiving.
That's it.
Yeah, well, it's funny, being out at different rinks and stuff. I have to fight myself a lot because I'll be driving home from a rink, and I'll be like, a Wendy's Baconator would go so hard right now, but then I'm like, no, don't do this. It's money I shouldn't spend, and those are calories I should not put in my body. And I will say this, unfortunately, sometimes the bad side of me wins on those, but I have been getting better at trying to get away from that stuff. And rink food too. Rink food's mostly awful, so don't do that.
Dude, if you're freezing all day in a rink covering the game, I feel like it's so easy for your brain just to be treat yourself. But then that turns into 50 times a year. So I get it. I get the struggle. Save yourself just maybe once a week or something like that. But Evan, we got to send it to break, actually pay some bills. Thank you so much for coming on. You came on for a couple segments. It was great to get your insight. We'll have you on again in a couple weeks, I'm sure, as we continue the pod. Have a great Thanksgiving and enjoy the game the next day, the one against the Rangers. That's going to be a great one. But again, thanks, Evan. We're going to send it to break. Welcome back into the Hockey Hub. We just had Evan Marinofsky join us, the editor of the New England Hockey Journal. He's got his own podcast. We finished talking about the McChickens we had on air the other day, cheat day meals, Thanksgiving food. The Bruins during media day, they were asked what their favorite cheat day meal is. So let's have a listen, and then Razor and I will be back with ours. What's your cheat day meal? So when you can eat whatever you want, what are you going to eat?
Cheat meal. Chick-fil-A, probably.
Pizza, good cheeseburger, couple sweet treats in there, some ice cream, something like that.
A cookie once in a while.
Burgers, for sure burgers.
Some burgers.
Burgers, good burger.
Burgers or homemade mac and cheese. Got a little crunch though, you gotta finish it off in the oven, make it a little crispy.
Hot dogs, not one, hot dogs. Couple at least.
Yeah. Anything, honestly. Good burger or a pizza.
Pizza, probably.
Pizza.
Pizza, probably a whole pizza. Jenny's, I'm gonna give a shout out to Jenny's Pizza, really good. Half a loaf of banana bread that my beautiful fiance makes for me. I mean, a chicken parm, that's not even a cheat meal, that's just a regular diet.
My fiance Caitlin and I probably go to Shake Shack. Really any type of burger.
Every restaurant in Providence, you have to try Indino's, you have to try Harris Burger Barn, every restaurant in Federal Hill.
Back home in the summer, I feel like I always have In-N-Out Burger.
Ooh. I don't know. This is not a plug for Chipotle, but a quesadilla from Chipotle. Okay. You can order it on Uber Eats. It comes right. Oh man.
If I'm gonna really go all out, go to McDonald's, get a Big Mac combo, a Coke or something. McFlurry.
Just getting a nice big steak, something that makes you feel really heavy, but you love eating it, and a nice dessert and big chocolate guy, so chocolate lava cake or something like that. Maybe some takeout from a Thai restaurant.
Pancakes with bacon. Even though I do it pretty much every day, but yeah.
Wait, you have that every day for breakfast?
As often as I can.
I'm not a big cheat meal, but definitely ice cream. If I'm gonna cheat with something, it'd be dessert.
I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I kind of have to watch what I eat a little bit. I can have a cheat day meal, as long as I take insulin for it. I'm a big ice cream lover, so probably ice cream with cookies in there.
Donuts.
Donuts.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dunkin', wait, you're new to Boston. You already love Dunkin'?
Yeah, I love it.
I love when we have a day off, and if it's not Sunday, I love Chick-fil-A. I get a chicken sandwich with some nuggets usually, and a milkshake, cookies and cream milkshake. Yeah, it's really good.
I don't know. I feel like I just kind of eat whatever I want all the time.
There you go. Must be nice. Oh man, must be nice to be young 20s and eat what you want all the time. Some of those, Razor, were not even cheat meals. Like a steak, that's not a cheat meal. Dude, like hot dogs, maybe.
That's why Tanner Jeannot beats everybody up, because he's obviously eating something to the point of his physicality allows him to eat steak, and that's his cheat meal. So he's eating spinach like Popeye all the time.
We know mine was a McChicken because we ate it on air. I forget what yours was. Like if you're cheating, if you're feeling guilty, because again, some of these like pizza, I don't really feel that guilty about burgers. But when you are like, okay, this is guilt, what's yours?
Well, not like a fancy, nice adult pizza, like the kids' pizza. Like, well, we get like a Detroit style pizza, or we get Domino's, or like that with like the cheese balls and the whole thing. That can be pretty guilty a little bit later in the night.
Yeah, you're right. The deep fried Pizza Hut or like stuffed crust.
Like that is amazing. It is so good, but not really healthy.
Paying for that. Okay, we got to wrap the show, but just wanted to say thanks for being on and remind everyone that normally we're on Fridays at 1. We're going to be on ahead of the game at 12 o'clock. Myself and Casey Hudson. The Bruins are taking on the Rangers at TD Garden. That's a TNT game, so Nesson has it off, but that is a classic. Make sure you tune in at 12 o'clock. We're going to preview that one, and then we're back for a little home and home against the Detroit Red Wings. Do you got that game with us, Razor, or are you off on Saturday?
No, I'm back for a while now. So, I am going to the game with the whole crew on Friday. That's, everyone's excited to do that. So yeah, we'll be back on the hockey mix Wednesday night.
Okay, enjoy it. I'll see you Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you Friday at noon ahead of the 1 p.m. game, Black Friday Classic. All right, guys.